From big pecking order clues to political games, 2026 rule problems to a clear team in trouble, Formula One's first official week of testing properly delivered in terms of big storylines. What's immediately clear is that teams are desperate not to be favourite. Mercedes left Barcelona as the champion of the pre-season. Red Bull took that mantle on Wednesday in Bahrain, Ferrari was turning heads on Thursday, by Friday it was Mercedes again. And all the while, everybody tried to shift the spotlight onto someone else, because all the top teams are desperate not to be labelled fastest. Ferrari thinks Mercedes is deliberately hiding its pace, the unspoken implication being that it was doing so to downplay a perceived engine advantage and reduce the likelihood of a late compression ratio rule change, something Max Verstappen was more explicit about. Mercedes and its customers have waxed lyrical about Red Bull all week, praising the preparation and subsequently the performance of its brand new in-house engine. More on that shortly. Red Bull has batted that away emphatically, as it also believes Mercedes has plenty more to show and thinks it's only fourth fastest itself. But Mercedes customer McLaren seems to be keen to claim this fourth position for itself, as it argues this rule set favours works teams given the intense energy demands and the benefits of having your car and engine perfectly designed for each other and getting access to key information at the earliest opportunity. What the lap times tell us. Persistent timing system crashes and Red Bull not doing a race simulation on the final day mean the race sim picture is incomplete, but at least there is a picture. The McLaren of Oscar Piastri, the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli all did race simulations on Friday afternoon, Antonelli going about half an hour later than the other two. There was not a ton here between Mercedes and Ferrari, at least not conclusively. In Stint 1, which both cars ran on the C3 soft tyre, Hamilton was faster to start with, but Antonelli kept the pace better. In Stint 2 on C1 hards, the Mercedes did appear to have a decisive advantage, but data is missing after 12 laps. What is clear enough is that the McLaren was a step back across all stints, maybe by as much as half a second per lap, but it still belongs in that upper echelon of teams. Red Bull engine, a reality check. Red Bull has been winning praise for the work done on its first F1 engine since the Barcelona test, but that was mainly because it was surprisingly reliable straight away. In Bahrain, that surprise and respect has turned into low-level fear. Mercedes asserted the Red Bull is a second quicker on the straights because it has unmatchable charging capabilities, so it's deploying electric power more around the lap. The work done on the gearbox too has clearly facilitated a great package in terms of making first gear quite pleasantly usable for its drivers, a rarity in modern motorsport. This means Red Bull can maximise battery charging potential with aggressive downshifts without terribly destabilising the car. Mercedes driver George Russell thus described this test as a bit of a reality check for us, because after a winter of speculation that his team was in the best place, in Russell's own words, Red Bull has now knocked it out of the park. Russell's adamant they're very much the team to beat, even though Mercedes hit the top of the times on the final day. He says making improvements across testing at the same circuit is more straightforward, but it's Red Bull's pace at the starts of these tests that's caught his eye. Come Australia, Russell is already convinced Red Bull will be ahead. Starts are a recipe for disaster. What first emerged in early testing as a bit of intrigue about the high revving nature of F1's 2026 race starts has turned into a full-on safety issue. With a good start demanding drivers rev engines for around 10 seconds to spool the turbo up, while at the same time not overcharging the battery, finding consistency is proving very difficult. And if repeated mistakes are happening in the low stress conditions of pit lane exit practice getaways, it's only going to get worse amid the stress of a real start at a Grand Prix. But what has alarmed drivers, and now several team bosses, is that when things go wrong with the starts, they go badly wrong, and that means there's a risk of drivers being left stranded. Throw into the mix cars on cold tyres being in straight mode with minimal downforce, and it's little wonder that Oscar Piastri has labelled it all a recipe for disaster. Calls for changes to the start procedure have grown very loud, with the FIA set to come under pressure over the matter at next week's F1 Commission meeting. Williams' recovery has a pace question mark. Having failed to make the Barcelona test, Williams achieved its primary objective for Bahrain by completing more laps than anyone else. This, combined with the fact that it completed 2 filming days before this test started, has proved that Williams is reliable and allowed some serious work to be done. However, there are bigger question marks over the performance of the car. Yes, it looks comfortably in the midfield, but not at the head of it. And this is a team that now sees 5th place as its new baseline, so that means there's work to be done. The car doesn't look as comfortable on track as the Haas and the Alpine. There's a hint of perhaps running a little bit stiffer than ideal, and the grip suffering as a result. But it is behind on running, so the key for the next Bahrain test is to understand the data, improve the car setup, and unlock the performance that could take it to the head of the midfield. The team in the most trouble. Brand new car and engine rules, plus a whole new team, meant there was a good chance a crisis team would emerge in testing this year. Aston Martin might not go quite that far, but it is the team most in trouble. After the bold AMR 26 turned heads when it appeared in Spain, its only headlines have been for negative reasons here. Starting the test unreliably, looking awkward on track all week, and seemingly being seconds off the pace is a nightmare beginning for a partnership that promises so much. This is well short of the standards expected for a team led by Adrian Newey, backed by the financial might of Lawrence Stroll, powered by a works Honda engine, and led on the driving side by Fernando Alonso. The good news is there's a whole other test still to go to make progress, but as Mike Crack has said, the main lesson this week is there's a lot of work to do. If you want exclusive benefits like our trackside impression of the Aston Martin, plus all the other 2026 cars, then make sure you're signed up to the Race Members Club, your paddock pass to the 2026 season. There's still time to claim your free 7-day trial via the link in the description. The best midfield team, by default. The smallest team on the grid has much to be happy about after the first test in Bahrain, partly by virtue of other teams struggling conspicuously. The top 4 teams from the end of 2025 look a cut above the rest, but Haas, at least after the first week's showing and some solid mileage numbers from Barcelona, appears to be towards the top of the next group. Ollie Bearman set the 8th fastest time of the test and Esteban Ocon the 9th fastest, but more impressive is Haas's place in 4th in the mileage charts, just shy of 400 overall. Team boss Ayo Komatsu was elated with the team's start to 2026. Understandably so, it hasn't really had a major hitch in Bahrain and only won at Barcelona. Unremarkable? Maybe, but maybe it's remarkable just how decent Haas looks right now compared to some others. Cadillac's had the best start possible. Cadillac logged over 1,700 kilometers in Bahrain, more than Alpine, Mercedes and Aston Martin. It also showed respectable pace, ending up 3.7 seconds off the pace on headline lap times, and 10th fastest of the 11 teams, ahead of Aston Martin. As a result, attention has turned to exploiting more of the potential of the car, even though no proper performance runs have yet been attempted. All of this means the team has created a firm foundation to build from. It all points to backmarker respectability for a startup team that is as good as a win given the scale of the challenge. There were no major problems, it looks the part on and off track, and while there is still a huge amount of work to be done, the performance in Bahrain is testament to how rigorously the process of building up the team has been executed. We've seen the real Audi. Even though Audi ran its 2026 car so early it was always likely to be the one that changed most by Australia, we were surprised by just how different it was this week. In aerodynamic terms, it's close to a B-spec. The bodywork has been totally revised, with vertical side pod inlets that somewhat resemble the Mercedes Zero pods, little details popped up here and there like slots in the keel floor, and Audi even changed the entire front wing with a different activation system. The real Audi turned up in both design and function. It's not stunningly good, but it was never expected to be. There's work to do to make the car more compliant and tune the engine better, as it's clearly not as far along as fellow newcomer Red Bull powertrains. But it's more reliable, seems reasonable in the midfield, and it now has a sturdier foundation than the one it started building in Spain.